everybody. Welcome to my channel. I am DJ K, the Black Guy. If you're new here for the first time, hit that like button, subscribe button. I truly appreciate it. I'm kind of in a different location today, in my living room. Unfortunately, my main computer I do my videos from crashed on me, so it's getting repaired right now. So I'm in the living room, my laptop. So sorry about the echo. I'm just moving in, so I don't have much furniture and stuff, so it's kind of an open spot. So there's a little echo in here, but we'll just push on forward. Hopefully I have my computer back in a couple of days. But we're going to do another infographics video. This one is the most insane, what is it called? Most insane military tactics in history. I was in the military, so you know I'm quite versed in military tactics. We had to learn about all the different tactics. We had to read I can't even think of it. Sun Tzu, Art of War, and study all the battles in history and everything, especially Marine Corps history, because I was in Marine Corps and everything. So, but it's going to be part of the Learn Something series. So it's episode 5 we're doing, if I'm correct. Let's check it out. Let's see some of the most insane military tactics in history. Here we go.
The army waits for the enemy forces to come over the hill. They're ready for
anything.
But are they ready for cats?
Make
How
sure
did
it's
cats
nice and
help
crispy.
defeat an army?
Yep.
Why did the British arm their navy with hammers to take out U-boats?
Navy?
These are some of the most
Hammers?
insane
Okay.
military tactics that actually worked. It was the Battle
they
of
actually
Pelusium,
worked,
the Third
okay.
Crusade, and the Christian forces of Richard the Lionheart faced the Muslim army of Saladin, who outnumbered them 3-1. King Richard knew he was facing a losing battle, so he chose to wait. Forming a defensive perimeter by a river, he let Saladin's army shoot at them from afar until Saladin assumed the Crusaders were
It's always easier to defend than
his
attack.
men to move into a better position, and as soon as they moved, Richard ordered his men into action, taking the Muslim forces by surprise through the power of patience. Sometimes high-tech warfare requires a low-tech solution. During World War II, the fields of Europe were littered with explosive mines.
Okay.
One wrong step could kill a soldier and wound everyone around him. But the soldiers found a unique way to survive, getting up close and personal. Instead of walking, they would crawl on the ground and use a tool to dig into the ground at a 30-degree angle. Because the landmines were triggered on top, digging into them from the side would let them be removed safely. And these prodders helped soldiers escape
not
the
much
war with life and limb intact.
war tactics, is more just like
nature lends a
improvising.
helping hand. Rule number 1 of warfare: you never invade Russia in the winter.
Duh,
The Teutonic Knights, a powerful German brigade representing the Catholic forces of the Crusades, were at war with the Russian Orthodox forces on their home turf. The Crusaders brought modern armor and battle horses, but that worked against them when they reached Lake Peipus. While the Russians could easily retreat over the lake, they couldn't hold the weight of the armored Crusaders. While the stories of the ice breaking of the Crusaders were a Soviet film embellishment, the unfriendly terrain gave the Russians enough time to fend off the Crusaders with their archers and send them into retreat. When you're outgunned, you use everything you can.
Damn right.
It was 1914, and Germany had changed the face of warfare forever. Their Unterseeboots, better known as U-boats, were turning the waters into a killing field. These submerged boats were impossible to detect, and a single U-boat sunk over a dozen British ships, including a massive cruiser. As the situation worsened, the British scrambled to find a solution, but the German ships were hard to sink. The brass noticed that they had one weakness. They needed their periscope to find a target before firing. Take out the periscope, take out the U-boat's power.
Yeah, you can't see.
While many crazy solutions were proposed, including training birds or sea lions to attack the periscope, or spraying it with paint, ultimately a low-tech solution was proposed. Soldiers would be put on small patrol boats with one job: look out for periscopes popping up to the surface and guide the boat over to them. Then slip a bag on the periscope and hit it with a hammer quickly. If done right, the U-boat will be neutralized and the soldier can get away.
That's it?
No
that
one
really
knows
works?
how many U-boats the Hammer Corps managed to knock out before the depth charges were invented. It wasn't the only time.
I wonder what their track record was that.
When you think of fearsome wartime vehicles, you probably don't think of bicycles. But in 1942, the British learned that the hard way. The British colony of Singapore was one of the most valuable ports in Asia, and now it had come under attack by Japanese. The war in Europe meant many troops had been sent home, and only a small group of Commonwealth soldiers remained to fend off the invasion. But they were confident. They thought the Japanese ground troops wouldn't be able to handle Singapore's rough terrain. Not on foot they wouldn't, but they weren't on foot. The Japanese soldiers came across the territory on bicycles, which gave them a massive advantage. Not only could they move much faster over tricky terrain, but they could strap their provisions to the back of the bikes and not have to carry them in their gear.
That's,
While much of
wow.
Singapore didn't have roads for larger vehicles, the Japanese bicycle infantry could make their way over ramshackle bridges with ease.
Hey,
The
whoever moved their
Japanese
troops
forces that
faster can
invaded were
win.
far larger than the British expected, and soon the Japanese and their bicycles had taken Singapore. If you need an edge on
never
your
knew
enemy,
that.
you can always distract them. In the year 623, what would one day be China was divided between warring kingdoms. The Toyohun kingdom had invaded the territory of the Tang dynasty, and the Toyohun had come with a massive battalion of archers. When they got to the higher ground, General Chai Shao of the Tang almost found his army wiped out.
Oh, man.
They retreated, but the general knew he needed to get his cavalry into position to attack. He needed a way to distract the Toyohun, and there was only one thing needed in almost any military camp. Time
China.
to send in the ladies. A pair of women from Chai Shao's camp were sent to meet the Toyohun along with a musician. When they arrived, the women began dancing to the music, performing an appealing routine
No
that
way
led the
that
soldiers
works.
to immediately drop what they were doing and watch them. While the women danced, the Tang general moved his men into position and launched an attack.
There's
on the
no
Toyohun
way
camp,
that happened.
wiping
That's
them
gotta be
out.
a legend.
This could have been avoided if the Toyohun asked where the random dance troupe came from,
Right?
but they probably weren't thinking with their heads.
The wrong
For
head.
one of the most unlikely military tactics, you have to go all the way back to Roman times. It was the Golic Wars, as Julius Caesar sought to consolidate his empire in what would one day be France. A Golic revolt of the town of Alesia in 52 BCE had led Rome to send 60,000 legionnaires to the battle, but they were outnumbered. The Golic tribes were putting up a fight against the mighty Roman
I'm
army.
not too
And
much
soon
familiar with
word
the
reached Caesar
Roman
that
Wars.
a much larger relief force was coming to assist the Gauls. It seemed like he would have to retreat and take a shocking loss for the empire. But Caesar had other plans. His army built two
Caesar!
walls, one surrounding the Gauls in Alesia and keeping them from escaping, and another one surrounding the Romans to keep the larger forces from making their way in. This meant the Romans would fight a war on two fronts, trapping themselves between two hostile armies. But the Roman army didn't become this powerful by accident. The dual siege went on for several weeks, with the Romans outnumbered, but the Roman cavalry ultimately fended off both enemy forces and put an end to the revolt in Gaul. Of course, one of the best ways to neutralize an enemy is laziness.
No way.
Dennis Sefton Delmer was an unlikely hero. A Jewish journalist from Britain, but born in Berlin, he was interested in the threat of Nazism from the start. He even became one of the few British journalists to interview Hitler. But when
Wow.
the war broke out, he took Britain's side quickly and became one of their secret weapons. He helped Britain create fake radio broadcasts filled with lies that would
Propaganda.
confuse German soldiers. But one of the best ideas was a trick that could help to depopulate the German army. And all it took was a trick every schoolboy knows. Delmer created pamphlets that contained detailed instructions on how to fake an illness. Most countries had a draft during World War II. There was no shortage of young men who were desperate to
That's
avoid the
interesting.
battlefield. The books and pamphlets even contained recipes that would make someone temporarily sick but leave no ill effects, and
No
were distributed
conscripts.
around Germany, much to the anger of the Nazis, who put Delmer on a hit list.
Oh,
But he
damn.
remained safe in Britain, and the German army had more no-shows at roll call day by day. This next tactic combined unlikely weapons with unlikely warriors. The Eastern Front in World War II was the most brutal of the entire war, as the Russian army faced off against the invading Nazis. The Germans were bringing modern bomber planes, and the Russians chose to oppose them with biplanes. Not only were they using old-fashioned planes that only carried 2 bombs each, but they were piloted by the Night Witches, a group of women who often had
I
only
have-
4 hours of training
I've
before
heard
they took to
of
the
these.
skies. The Germans no doubt thought it would be an easy fight. It was, for the Night Witches. The Russians knew what they
I've
were
heard of
doing,
Night
and they
Witches
took
before.
the superior German forces by surprise. The biplanes had wooden frames, making it
I will
impossible
say the
for
Russians
radar
had a lot
to
of
detect them.
females in
The
their
German
wars
planes
that
might have
played
been
a
much
big
faster,
role.
but they weren't built to
Um,
decelerate, and that meant that
what
it
was
was
that
tricky for
sniper?
them to accurately hit the humble Russian biplanes.
The
While the
Nightingale,
Soviets
or
took
whatever
the
her name
heaviest
is.
casualties of any
Call of
military
Duty
during
made
the
a
war,
character kind
the
of
Night
based off of
Witches
her,
and their
but
biplanes
she was a real
became some of
person.
the only Russian air forces to survive. But the most unexpected tool to win wars is often animals. Timur came from powerful
I
steppe.
have heard of
He
pigeons
was
being
a
used in
descendant
war.
of Genghis Khan, and he followed his ancestors' footsteps by weaving a trail of conquest across Asia. But his biggest challenge would be the capture of Delhi, where he faced a powerful sultan with an army including 120 war elephants. These powerful beasts could easily stomp an invading army, and Timur only had an army with load-carrying camels. How could the camels beat the elephants? Timur remembered something about elephants. They scare easily. As the war elephants approached, Timur ordered his men to dismount the camels and load them up with as much hay
I think
as
I've
would
heard this
fit.
story before.
He then lit the hay on fire and sent the terrified, burning camels running toward the elephants. This startled the elephants, sending them running backward and trampling their own army. He had sacrificed the camels, but the elephants were unharmed and quickly tamed by Timur and his men to lead them to the Sultan's territory. But the flaming camels weren't the only animals of fire to turn the tide of battle. King Harald III of Norway began his adulthood as a simple mercenary, and that was where he earned the name Harald the Ruthless. While working for the Byzantine Empire, he was sent to aid in the prolonged siege of a Sicilian settlement. They were surrounded by impenetrable walls, and while Harald had the superior army, he couldn't afford to wait them out. He needed a secret weapon, and one came from the sky. And soon, so would fire. Harald observed that birds frequently scavenged in the fields but made their nests in the city, and sent mercenaries to trap as many as they could, and they carefully tied wood chips to their legs. Before releasing them, the wood chips were set on fire, and the birds were then sent back to their nests, where they would set hundreds of fires around the city, creating chaos and allowing the Byzantine forces to sweep in and conquer it. And hey, grilled birds for dinner. But one strange tactic involving animals left them unharmed. It was the Battle of Pelusium in 525 BCE, and Cambyses II of Persia was facing off against the superior Egyptian forces, and he had a secret weapon: cats. The fuzzy felines were revered in Egyptian religion, with pharaohs often being buried with their most prized cats. That meant that the Egyptian army would treat them with kid gloves, and that's what Cambyses II was counting on when he invaded. The Egyptian army was about to get cat overload. The first step: paint cats on the shields of the invading soldiers. Even destroying an image of a cat was considered taboo in Egyptian culture. But the invading army went further and had a collection of hundreds of cats placed at the front of the lines of the Persians. Miraculously, it worked, despite how hard it is to get cats to do anything. The Egyptians refused to harm the cats and retreated, and the Persians successfully massacred the army and captured the pharaoh.
That is crazy.
But one military tactic had the losers wondering if the enemy had conquered death.
Like if you go to with India where the cat, cows are sacred, you put up a cat on your front line, cows on your front line.
His men took him to the city walls and asked for passage to give him a Christian burial within the city. And the city proved they learned nothing from the story of the Trojan horse. It was all a scam. And within the city walls, Hasdrubal rose from his coffin and led his men in pillaging the city. There was just one problem. Hasdrubal thought that he was sacking Rome, but his men had taken him to the city of Luna instead. A for military tactics, D- for cartography. For more on military strategy, check out What is Guerrilla Warfare, or watch this video instead.
That was a good one, man. Like I said, I'm being in the military stuff always intrigues me and stuff, and that was interesting. There's some weird little tactics that were used over the centuries in the war and everything. You know, got improvised war isn't it isn't black and white. There really isn't a book to deal with it. So it's always gotta adapt and overcome, as they say, and sometimes we do it in some strange ways. So like this video, hit the like button, subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See you when I see you. Peace.